There are about 40 seconds every morning that quietly decide how your whole day goes. Your alarm goes off. Your eyes open in the dark. And before a single conscious thought shows up, some part of your brain has already done the math. The cold floor. The long day ahead. That thing you swore you'd finally start today. Your hand reaches out on its own. The alarm goes quiet. You tell yourself you'll make up for it later. 40 seconds after that, you're asleep again, having lost a fight you were never even awake for. Then, around noon, the guilt shows up. You watch another video about discipline. You write a new plan, slightly neater handwriting than the last one. For about 3 days, it actually works. Then it doesn't. And you land right back in the same spot, thinking the same sentence. What is wrong with me? Most people will tell you the answer is willpower, that you need to want it more. Stop making excuses, push through. Here's the part almost nobody tells you. And it's the actual reason discipline feels brutal for you and weirdly easy for other people. The most disciplined people aren't better at forcing themselves. They barely force themselves at all. In 2012, psychologists Wilhelm Hofmann and Roy Baumeister ran a study where they interrupted people all day, every day, and asked what they were craving and what they were resisting in that exact moment. If discipline were really about willpower, the most disciplined people should have been the ones fighting the hardest, the most often. They found the opposite. The people who scored highest on self-control reported weaker desires and less internal conflict than everyone else. They weren't winning some daily battle. They were somehow never really in one, which means the thing you've spent years training, gritting your teeth, forcing, pushing, might not even be the right skill. So what is? To answer that, you need one strange, underrated idea from psychology. In 1992, a researcher named Robert Eisenberger published a theory he called learned industriousness. His core claim, effort isn't just a decision, it's a sensation. It has an actual physical texture, the heaviness in your chest before something hard, the pull toward the exit. And because it's a sensation, it can be conditioned. The same way a taste or a smell can be conditioned. When effort gets repeatedly followed by a reward, the feeling of effort itself starts carrying reward value. The heaviness stops registering as pain and starts registering as something good is coming. And that conditioning generalizes, train it in one part of your life, and it leaks into totally unrelated parts. Liking effort was never a personality trait you were born with. It's a learned association. Some people got trained into it by accident. You may not have. That's the entire gap. And in 2018, researcher Michael Inslicht and his team published something called the effort paradox that backs this up from the other direction. Yes, effort is costly, and most creatures avoid it by default. But humans routinely choose hard things on purpose. Nobody signs up for a marathon because it's the shortest distance between 2 points. Effort doesn't just cost you. Under the right conditions, it can add value. Actually wanting the hard thing isn't a fantasy some people were born lucky enough to have. It's a documented human capacity. Yours just hasn't been switched on. So how does it get switched on? For that, you need the single most exploitable mechanism in your entire brain. You've probably heard dopamine is the reward chemical. That's slightly wrong. And the correction is where all your leverage actually lives. In the 1990s, neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz was recording individual dopamine neurons while animals learned to expect a reward. At first, the neurons fired the moment the reward arrived. That part makes sense. But as the animal learned that a signal always came right before the reward, something strange happened. The dopamine burst moved. It stopped firing at the reward and started firing at the signal instead. By the time the reward actually showed up, the neurons barely reacted at all. The signal walks backward in time. It leaves the prize behind and attaches itself to whatever reliably predicts the prize. Think about what that means for you specifically. Your brain isn't spiking when you finish a task. It's spiking the moment you pick up your phone, because your phone reliably predicts something good, so reaching for it already feels like relief before you've even unlocked it. Your brain has run that loop thousands of times. Now ask the uncomfortable version of that question. What does opening your notebook reliably predict? What does the first minute at your desk predict? For most people, the honest answer is nothing good. It predicts strain and self-criticism. So your brain does exactly what it was built to do. It flinches. This was never really about discipline. It's about what your brain has learned to expect. And expectations can be retaught. So where did yours get written wrong in the first place? Think back to how you were actually rewarded growing up. Not what you were told, but what actually produced warmth and attention. It came for the finished project, the good grade, the number on the scale. Everyone celebrated the outcome. The weeks of unglamorous work that produced it? Nobody threw a party for that. At best, it went unmentioned. So your nervous system learned a perfectly reasonable lesson. Effort is the toll you pay at the gate, and the reward is on the other side. Under that arrangement, effort never once gets paired with anything good, which is the exact opposite of the condition Eisenberger showed you actually need. And here's the part that makes it worse. Every time you finally force yourself through a session, how does it usually end? Not with satisfaction. It ends with you thinking, that was awful, I barely got anything done, I'm so behind. Which means the last thing your brain files next to the sensation of effort is punishment. You're still conditioning, just backward. Every joyless, white-knuckled session is a rep that teaches your nervous system that effort reliably predicts feeling terrible. The harder you force it, the deeper you carve the aversion. So the fix can't be more force. More force is just more reps of the wrong lesson. Here's the actual fix. 5 specific ways to retrain what effort predicts. 1. Pay the effort, not the outcome. Stop attaching your reward to results. Results are slow and mostly outside your control, which makes them terrible teachers. The moment you finish a session, before you judge anything, mark it. Say it out loud. I showed up. It has to land within seconds of the effort, and it has to be unconditional. 2. Move the reward to the doorway. Since the signal migrates backward onto whatever predicts it, put something good at the entrance of the hard thing instead of the exit. In a 2014 study, researcher Catherine Milkman and colleagues at Wharton gave people gripping audiobooks, but only let them listen at the gym. Gym visits jumped by roughly half. The workout stopped being the price of admission and became the only place the good thing lived. One rule, it has to be exclusive or it predicts nothing. 3. Make the starting line ridiculously small. Your brain isn't actually resisting the work. It's resisting how big the work looks from a distance. Write the chapter triggers the flinch. Write one sentence doesn't because there's nothing left in it to dread. In 2010, researchers at University College London tracked people building new habits and found that automatic behavior takes roughly 2 months to form on average, with huge variation between people. But the finding that matters most, missing a single day didn't break the pattern. The people who failed were the ones who quit, not the ones who slipped. 4. Engineer your surroundings instead of relying on your resolve. Remember those highly disciplined people from the Hoffman study? They weren't resisting more temptation. They were simply running into less of it on purpose. Every decision you make about your environment while you're calm is a decision your exhausted 11 p.m. self doesn't have to win. Phone in another room. Clothes laid out the night before. This isn't weakness. It's exactly what the strongest self-regulators in the research already do. 5. Never end on failure. The final moments of any session are what your brain actually files away. So stop ending in the wreckage. Don't close the laptop mid-sentence while spiraling about how little you did. Deliberately end on something small and complete. Then stop on purpose while it still feels good. You're writing the line your nervous system will remember tomorrow when it makes its next prediction. Do this long enough, and something quietly strange happens. The work doesn't become easy. Let's be honest, hard things stay hard. What disappears isn't the difficulty. It's the fight. That 40-second standoff with your alarm. The nightly debate with yourself over whether you're actually the kind of person who follows through. That's the part that finally goes quiet. And on the other side of it, effort stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like something closer to yours. More than a century ago, long before anyone had ever recorded a dopamine neuron, William James wrote that the whole point of training your habits is to make your own nervous system your ally instead of your enemy, not to declare war on yourself every morning and lose. That's really all discipline ever was underneath it. Not a character trait, not brute willpower, just a nervous system that's finally learned it has something to look forward to. So, of the five, paying the effort, moving the reward, shrinking the entry, designing the room, or ending on a win, which one is actually your missing piece? Tell me in the comments. If you want more of what real research says about the strange machinery running underneath your own mind, subscribe. There's a lot more of this we haven't gotten to yet.